Now, our first speaker today, he has been on this journey of purpose much longer than I am. He wrote an amazing book called Leading from Purpose, has worked with some incredible companies across the world like Lego, Unilever, Ben & Jerry's, Heineken. The list goes on, but he has been way ahead of this curve at what does it mean to fully step into your purpose, both individually and organizationally. And he said these words to us. He said, you know, he spoke at the Purpose Summit in 2020, and he's been at every Purpose Summit since. He said, I feel like purpose has gone from a nice idea to a movement. And I have been alone in this journey for a long time, and I'm excited to go on a journey together with some people who want to change the world together, who want to change the way that businesses operate together, who want to change the way that people show up every day. And his personal purpose is to help you wake up and finally be at home. And I'll let him tell you what that means. Please welcome to the stage our first speaker of Purpose Summit 2024, my dear friend, Nick Craig.
I need you to really step up and be in. So my question is, are you ready to be in? Okay, so I'm going to up the ante. So I get to go around the world, and I work with leaders from the crew at Ben & Jerry's to Lego to West Point Military Academy and Special Forces. I can't think of a more wide spectrum of crazy people, yes? And the truth is they are just like you, in that what really helps them step deeply into that magic place of purpose is how much they really, really are stepping in to the adventure fully. And it's not from their head, it's from their heart and their soul. And it's not because of what somebody else wants, it's because of the impact it will have for them and the people around them. So my question for you then is, are you in? Okay. Notice how the second feels different than the first? Look, I think the invitation, the opportunity of what we're going to do the next couple of days is purpose is not an intellectual exercise. It's something that you feel here. And when you did the second yes, notice that what you felt was your voice. Purpose is the core essence of who you are. It's that unique gift that you bring that no one else brings to a meeting or a conversation. We each have a unique fingerprint, iris, and voice. You have a unique voice, you have a unique purpose. And in some ways, our opportunity over the next couple of days is to allow each of you to welcome that powerful purpose, that unique gift that you are, but also to see it in each other. That's the opportunity of what we're here to do. So in some ways, I can't think of anything more important for us to be doing. Now, the same is true for an organization as an individual. If I was to take you and replace you with someone equally as good-looking, smart, and compelling as you are in your life, and 30 days later I was to ask, what do you miss? The answer to that question would be your purpose. The challenge is most of us don't know what that answer really is. And in some sense, the opportunity of what we're here to do over the next couple of days is to go on the journey of beginning to reveal that deeper insight for each of us. Now, for many of you who work for an organization or a company, the same is true for that entity as well. If your company or organization disappeared tomorrow, how long would it take for your competitors to make your customers and clients completely satisfied? And what would they really miss? The answer to that question is the profoundly important one for every organization to be able to answer. So in some ways, I can't think of anything that would be more important for us to do. But as I said, I want to invite you in a journey with me. So I want you to go on this journey with me. And what I'm going to ask you to do right now is to go back to when you were a kid. 6, 7, 8 years old. wherever you happen to have been. And I want you to think about what the authorities said to you, those adults, the teachers. Now, did any of them ever ask you what your purpose was? Right? No one came up to you and said, so what's your purpose? What did they say to us? Well, who you want to be? What do you want to do, right? That was the question, right? And when your parents invited people over, what did they say? Oh, they're such and such, and what they do is blah, 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 right? And she said, oh, he's a car salesman. Oh, he's a banker. Oh, he's a lawyer. Oh, they're a doctor, right? You know, in some sense, the challenge we have for most of us is the world is very full of many things, not purpose. So in some ways, what I know is I spent much of my life, and I'm just thinking for you, each of us to just go on that journey of from kid to where you are, of how much time you've spent wanting to figure out what are you going to do, right? What's the job I'm going to have? What's the job that's going to make me happy? How do I figure this out? What does this look like? The most challenging thing I find is when you've been really successful. If you become a CEO of a company, your identity becomes very difficult to separate from that amazing role. If you're a famous surgeon or doctor or mom or whatever it happens to be, where you've spent so much time being it, it becomes really challenging to let it go. I actually went to a gathering with a couple of colleagues, and somebody came from their country club, and I said, how are you? They said, oh my God, I was with a bunch of FIPs. I go, what's a FIP? Formerly important people. And I go, oh my God, you spent all your life making it finally to the top to be the thing, and then you spend the rest of your life telling everybody how you used to be the thing, and your spouse is just like miserable the whole time. That is the world without purpose. Now, along with that, we have what we know. And I don't know about you, but I spend a lot of time studying stuff I don't use anymore. I actually have a computer science math degree, and I can't use any of it because none of it is any good after about 2 or 3 years. It all gets replaced. Think about all the things you've studied over your life and all the things you put time into, all the things you know. Now, my hope for all of you is that you have spent moments where what you know is incredibly important to the people around you, and you get to be the hero in the show. That is a beautiful thing when it happens. It takes up a lot of time. The other thing that we spend a lot of time doing is the things we have. There's the cars, the boats, the houses, there's the schools the kids go to. When you get together with people, everybody talks about those things. Right? There's the things you have and the things you want. Now you think about, as we start adding this up, you'll notice that there's absolutely no purpose in any of this. Oh, by the way, there's all the beliefs we have. Now, I get to teach courses and do programs in crazy places around the world, whether it's in Hong Kong or Copenhagen, where I was last week, or here. And I'll tell you, when I'm interacting with people, their orientation and beliefs about how the world works is very different than anyone else's. Their parents, their schools, all the things create a reality for all of us. And once again, there's no purpose. The challenge I see is that many of us give our power over to what we call the authorities. At the core of the word authorities is the word author. And we give our authorship over to other people. And you know what they give us? They give us a map, and they say, follow the map. And if you follow this map, you'll be as good as that guy over there. And if you're really successful, I'll appreciate you and love you, and I'll give you the bonus instead of somebody else, right? How many of us live in this world? The truth is that for most of us, that map and those maps work pretty good until they don't. At the age of about 37, it all fell apart for me. I was really good at following other people's maps, and I had some really good maps because I got to work with professors from Harvard and MIT and all these great places, and they had really good maps. And I got really good at running around the world and having everybody think I was really amazing, results-driven change, all that amazing stuff. The only one problem was I felt completely Do any of you relate to what I'm talking about? I mean, everybody's got this sexy map, and they all look like it's all working, and you are racing after them and chasing after them because you want to be as successful and as happy as they are. And then you get there and you say, why does this suck so bad? Yeah? Well, the problem is there's no purpose anywhere in the mix. You aren't anywhere in any of this. The unique gift that you are isn't showing up. And what I realized, actually I didn't realize it, what happened is my body basically said, we've had enough of this crazy stuff, we're just going to get you sick. And we're going to put you out for 6 months. And when I woke up, my wife left me, the people I worked for that told me that they were my family said, we don't want you to work here. So what I was doing was gone. What I knew was useless. What I had was now my ex-wives. And most of my beliefs were on the floor because I realized I really bought into the plan that there was a map that if I followed it, everything would work. And it didn't work. And what I realized is when you stripped everything away, the only thing that was standing there waiting for me was my purpose. Now, Davin said my purpose, which is to wake you up and have you really, really finally be home. When I looked at my life, what I realized is there was a lot of things I was doing, but when I really saw somebody, I could have them step into a part of themselves that was so magical that both of us would never forget it ever, ever, ever again. And what I realized is I'd forgotten how to do that, and I didn't do it for myself, and the whole thing fell apart. I went to a friend who was a Jewish mother, and she wanted to start giving me advice, and about the third or fourth thing I told her it was broken, she just stopped talking because it just didn't work anymore. So the reality was I had to go to the place of actually breaking all the dishes to find purpose. Now, my big call to myself was I never wanted anybody else to be as stupid as me and to have it be so hard to access their purpose ever, ever again. So what I've spent the rest of my life doing is making it much, much easier for everybody else to find it. Because it ain't worth going through that crazy time. And yes, I look around the room and you guys are nodding your heads, and some of you know exactly where I've been. Exactly where I've been. The invitation that we have is this event is not an event. This is about a journey that we get to go on, where we get to go deeper into that place where usually everything else is getting in the way, but now we get to go to that place that is only ours. It's our purpose. Now, I have someone I was sitting across from. He was in one of the top 3 global banks in the world. He was a senior banker, and he's crying. How many of you enjoy being across a table from a banker when he's crying? This is never a good thing, right? Now, as he was crying, he had a piece of paper in front of him, which is his resignation letter. Now, the fact that the day before, he had just released this magnificent 10,000 person digital transformation of the bank made this moment make no sense. I was like, how could we go from on top of the world to crying and resigning in one day? He said, well, the CEO has just hired my co-lead for the next piece, who everybody says is a complete idiot and terrible, and I'm just going to quit. And I was like, oh my God. Well, it turns out that for most of us, we have many voices in our head. And some of them are not very helpful. Some of them we call the whining critic, the oh, woe is me. Any of us have those voices? Yeah? Okay. Well, this one had taken over this poor man. So Vince was gone. He was sitting there crying. I'm like, how is this possible? Well, I had the ultimate trump card, which is I knew his purpose. So his purpose is to basically get stuff done when everybody else is running out the door thinking it's impossible. Now, the metaphor he uses for it is he's the Tony Stark as an Iron Man who sits down with the Avengers and says, okay, Avengers, time to go work for a living, right? So I sat there and I looked at him. I said, okay, Vincent, it's time to go work for a living. And he looks at me and he's really pissed. And for 20 minutes, I watched the two voices battle it out. I've got the woe is me voice, and I've got the purpose voice going at it. At the end of 20 minutes, the purpose voice comes out and says, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to the CEO and say, listen, I'm really pissed. But here's what we'll do, is we can do twice as much in half the time, but you're going to have to give me the budget. Is it a deal? Are you in? And the CEO looked at him and said, you know what? Sorry, got it. Let's go get the money. Turned out to be the biggest digital transformation in banking for like 3 or 4 years. Now, that's because the purpose voice won. And what I'm saying to all of us is we got multiple voices, and the power of this gathering and the power of this journey is to really give the purpose voice inside of you the opportunity to be listened to. It turns out that most of the maps that you followed have a voice that is not yours. The real invitation I give you is to shift from following other people's maps to being the map maker. Do you understand what I'm saying? We have spent our life, think about how much we spend our lives following other people's maps and going to the airport bookstore that says, oh my God, we finally figured it out, and every 3 weeks they change the book. Okay? What does that say about whatever map you find in the airport bookstore? And the invitation, the true invitation of this conference is for all of us to step into being the map makers. Now, I've got my Dunkin' app, I've got my Starbucks app, I've got Amazon, and they're great maps and they work. But you know what? Whether I have it or not, it's not going to make a real big difference in the world. I promise you that in the world we live in today, look, I don't know about you, but most of the maps that worked before COVID have not come back. They're never coming back. I think we live, when you take AI and you take climate change and you take politics and you take everything else, you add it together, I don't see any of the maps that used to work working anymore. Do you? So I truly believe that the future of what your kids and your kids' kids are going to say was what really made the difference is going to be the people that are the map makers. And you are a map maker. Every one of the people who are presenting in this conference over the next 2 days are map makers. And it is not easy. Here's the thing. I do not think it's easy or fun to follow other people's maps. Okay? I think it's really hard to be a map maker, but if I have the choice, I'd rather be the map maker than following somebody else's map. That's the invitation that we really have for you, is to step into that place. Now, what if you have to change a 1.1 million person organization? Can you imagine? And what if you decide the thing you want to change is so core to that organization's identity that they're going to hold on to it for the dear life, and they're going to try to stop you no matter what? Well, I have to tell you a story about Colonel Pete. She is a battalion commander in the U.S. Army. I say she. Her father's nickname was Pete. He was a sergeant major. And when she became a major, she had her call sign be Pete. Her job is to be a soldier. But what she realized was, as a major, and I met her when she was at West Point, and we sat and had a conversation, and she said, I have to change the dress code in the military for women. And I'm like, this woman's crazy. She said 370-1. And I'm like, whatever 370-1 is, God only knows. Okay, there's a bunch of people who have been in the military who goes, oh, I know what that is. But she said, you have to be a man in the U.S. military. You have to dress like a man. You have to give up all your uniqueness of being a woman, and we are not going to get the women we need to be in the military to protect this nation if we do not make it where the dress code allows you to wear some makeup, some earrings, and have a ponytail. Now, I'm sitting here listening to her going, you are crazy, girl. Right? Well, she starts going up against the generals, and she goes time after time after time, and each time she doesn't make it. Well, her purpose is to give those who don't have a voice, to close that gap for them, and she says it's the Rocky punch. But she says, you know, what I'm used to is with Rocky, what you know is he really got punched out a lot, but he kept getting up. She says, that's who I am. Well, grit is purpose and perseverance. And basically, she outlasted all those generals to the point where they actually changed the code. And it changed it for over 176,000 employees of the U.S. military who are all women, 1776. One person did it, and it wasn't her day job. This is what the power of purpose is. This is the invitation for all of us, is what is it that is impossible, but your purpose is calling you and saying, psst, come on, this is where we've got to go. And I promise you, if everybody else is there, you don't need to go there. That's the invitation to purpose. That's the opportunity, what we're here to do for the next couple of days. Now, this last weekend, I was visiting my mom who lives in Greenville. And my mom was one of the authorities in my life, and for the most part, she had a lot of maps. You guys got moms, you know what the maps are that they have, yes? And so I told her what I was going to be talking about, and she got really quiet. And she looked at me, and she says, I have a poem for you. So I'm going to read this poem to you. And this is a poem by a gentleman named John O'Donohue, who I'd never heard of before, but he apparently is a very well-established poet. And the poem is for presence. Awaken to the mystery of being here. Awake to the mystery of being here. And entire the quiet immensity of your own presence. Have joy and peace in the temple of your senses. Receive encouragement when new frontiers beckon. Respond to the call of your gift. Respond to the call of your gift. For me, that's purpose. And the courage to follow its path. May warmth of the heart keep your presence aflame. May anxiety never linger about you. May your outer dignity mirror an inner dignity of soul. Take time to celebrate the quiet miracles that seek no attention. Be counsel in the secret symmetry of your soul. May you experience each day as a sacred gift woven around the heart of wonder. Oh my God. You know what my mom did? She did what my invitation for all of you is. Look, as much as there was a bunch of authorities in your life that gave you maps, once in a while, one of them didn't give you a map. They invited you to become a map maker, yes? And you know who that person is. Those one or two people that were magical. What my mom did to me this weekend is she made the switch from the map giver to the map maker invitation. That's what this is. And that's what our opportunity for all of us is on this journey we're to go on, is to shift into being the map makers. So, welcome to the Purpose Summit.